Get away from him! Victoria Whitmore's hand cracked across Marcus Johnson's face. He didn't flinch. He kept holding the pregnant woman he'd just caught from hitting the ground. She needs help, Marcus said. She needs to leave. And so do you. 3 hours later, a lawyer knocked on Marcus's door. Mr. Johnson, you've just inherited $500 million. Marcus laughed. He thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. Get your hands off her. Victoria Whitmore's palm connected with Marcus Johnson's cheek. The sound echoed across the cemetery like a gunshot. Marcus didn't move. He didn't flinch. He kept his arms around the pregnant woman who had almost collapsed onto the cold pavement. She needs help, Marcus said. His voice was calm, steady. She needs to leave. Victoria stepped closer. Her eyes were ice. And you need to remember your place. You're the help. Act like it. The pregnant woman, Eliza, tried to speak. Victoria, please. Shut up. Victoria didn't look at her. Her eyes stayed locked on Marcus. Put her down and get back to raking leaves. That's what we pay you for. Marcus looked at Eliza. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled. She was 7, maybe 8 months pregnant. Can you stand? He asked her quietly. I think so. He helped her to a bench, gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. Victoria watched with disgust. You'll regret this, she said. Both of you. She turned and walked into the chapel. Her heels clicked against the stone like a countdown. Marcus didn't watch her go. He was already grabbing a bottle of water from his cart. Drink this, slow. Eliza's hands shook as she took it. She drank, coughed, drank again. Thank you, she whispered. Tears ran down her face. Nobody else. They all just watched. I know. Why did you help me? Marcus didn't understand the question. You were falling. That's it? That's the only reason? What other reason do I need? Eliza stared at him. Something shifted in her eyes, recognition. But that made no sense. They'd never met. He was right about you, she said softly. Who was right? She shook her head. You'll find out soon enough. 4 hours earlier. Marcus Johnson's son asked him a question that broke his heart. Dad, why do you always help other people, but we're still poor? Jalen was 7 years old. He sat on a kitchen stool watching his father spread peanut butter on bread. Thin layers. The jar had to last until Friday. Marcus set down the knife. Where'd that come from, Jay? Tommy at school. His dad says people who help others for free are suckers. Marcus walked around the counter. He sat beside his son and pulled him close. Listen to me. Doing good things isn't about getting paid back. You do good because it's right. Because that's who we are. But we don't have money for the field trip, and Tommy's going. I know, son. His dad bought him new shoes too. Mine have holes. Marcus looked down at his son's sneakers. The sole was peeling away from the left one. He'd noticed last week. He'd hoped Jalen hadn't. I'll fix them tonight, Marcus said. Super glue. Good as new. It's okay, Dad. I don't mind. But he did mind. Marcus could see it. 7 years old and already learning to hide his pain, just like his father. Jalen, look at me. The boy looked up. Your mama used to say something. She said, the world is full of people who take. Be someone who gives. You remember that? I remember. She was the best person I ever knew, and she believed that, right up until the end. Jalen was quiet for a moment. Then, I miss her, Dad. I miss her too, buddy, every single day. Marcus kissed the top of his son's head. The boy smelled like cheap laundry detergent, like home. Now eat your breakfast. Mrs. Patterson's taking you to school. I gotta get to work. The cemetery. Yeah. Dad. Yeah. When you die, will you be in a cemetery too? The question hit Marcus like a truck. I'm not dying anytime soon, Jay. Promise. Marcus hesitated. He'd already broken too many promises, but this one he'd keep if it killed him. Promise. The bus ride took 45 minutes. Marcus counted the stops. 14. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before. Same as every day for the past 2 years. He thought about Sarah. 3 years gone. Cancer. The doctors had found it too late. 6 months from diagnosis to death. Marcus had held her hand through every chemotherapy session, every hospital stay, every night when she cried from the pain. The medical bills came to $287,000. Insurance covered half. Marcus still owed $143,000. He worked 3 jobs. Cemetery during the day. Warehouse at night. Handyman on weekends. 7 days a week. 52 weeks a year. The debt went down by $200 a month. At this rate, he'd be paying it off until he was 93. But he didn't think about that. Couldn't think about that. If he let himself think about it, he'd drown. So he thought about Jalen instead. Hot meals, clean clothes, homework help, bedtime stories. That's what mattered. That's what kept him moving. The bus stopped. Marcus got off. Oakwood Memorial Cemetery, his home away from home. The funeral was scheduled for 11. George Whitmore, real estate developer. Net worth somewhere north of $500 million. Marcus had never heard of him. Rich people lived in a different world. A world with marble floors and champagne breakfasts and problems that could be solved with money. Marcus's problems couldn't be solved with money. Well, they could. But he didn't have any. At 10:45, the cars started arriving. Mercedes, Bentleys, a Rolls-Royce. Marcus kept raking leaves. Invisible. That's what he was. That's what he'd always been. The family gathered near the chapel. Marcus was close enough to hear them talking. The estate has to be worth at least $600 million. Alexander thinks he's getting the company. Victoria already called the lawyers. She's not leaving anything to chance. Did anyone tell Eliza? Why would we? She's dead to this family. Still, Father would have wanted. Father's dead. What he wanted doesn't matter anymore. Marcus kept raking. Rich people. Always the same. Fighting over money before the body was even cold. Then another car pulled up. A Honda Civic. Old, dented. Out of place among the luxury vehicles like a stray dog at a dog show. A woman stepped out. Pregnant. Alone. Terrified. She walked toward the chapel. And that's when Victoria Whitmore stepped in her path. Why, Eliza! The name came out like a curse. I thought we made ourselves clear. You're not welcome here. Eliza stopped. Her voice was barely a whisper. I just want to say goodbye. He raised me. He was my father. He was our father. You were a charity case. A stray he picked up to make himself feel better. Victoria, please. Michael is dead. My husband is dead. I'm alone. I just wanted... You wanted what money is, that why you're here. Hoping Daddy left you something in the will? No, I just wanted to see him one last time. Victoria laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. You should have thought about that before you married that teacher. Before you chose him over us. I loved him. And look where that got you. Pregnant. Broke. Showing up at a funeral you weren't invited to. Victoria stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a hiss. Leave. Now. Before I have security remove you. Eliza's face went white. She swayed. Her hand reached for the wall. Missed. And then she was falling. Marcus moved before he could think. He dropped the rake. Sprinted. Caught her before she hit the ground. Victoria screamed at him. Slapped him. Told him to remember his place. He didn't care. He helped Eliza to the bench. gave her water, stayed with her while the service happened inside. When it was over and the family drove away in their expensive cars, Eliza looked at him one last time. "He was right about you," she said. "You really are who he thought you were." "I don't understand." "You will. Soon." She got in her Honda and drove away. Marcus went back to raking leaves. Just another day. Just another funeral. Just another invisible man doing invisible work. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. He picked up Jalen at 3:45. The boy ran to him like always, arms wide, smile bright. "Dad, I got a gold star on my spelling test." "That's my boy." They rode the bus home together. Jalen talked about his day, the spelling test, the book he was reading, the girl named Destiny who shared her chips with him. "I think she likes me, Dad." "You like her back." "Maybe. She laughs really loud, though." "Nothing wrong with that. Means she's not afraid to be happy." They got home at 4:30. Marcus started dinner. Mac and cheese, the cheap kind. Jalen set the table. They were halfway through eating when someone knocked on the door. Hard. Urgent. Marcus frowned. They never had visitors. He opened the door. A white man in an expensive suit stood in the hallway. He carried a leather briefcase. "Marcus Johnson? That's me. My name is Thomas Reed. I'm an attorney. I represent the estate of George Whitmore." Marcus's guard went up. "If this is about the funeral, I was just doing my job. I didn't mean to cause any trouble." "Trouble?" Thomas smiled. "Mr. Johnson, you didn't cause trouble. You passed the test." "What test?" "May I come in?" "What I have to tell you. You're going to want to be sitting down." "Ciao." Marcus let him in. Thomas sat across from the couch. He opened his briefcase. "Mr. Johnson, George Whitmore left you his entire estate." Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry." "His entire estate, approximately $500 million. Silence. Then Marcus laughed. "Okay. Who put you up to this? Is this some kind of prank?" "It's not a prank, Mr. Johnson. I don't know anyone named George Whitmore. I've never met the man." "Yes, you have." Thomas pulled out a photograph. 5 years ago. Riverside office tower. There was a fire in the parking garage. Marcus's blood went cold. He remembered. Oh God, he remembered. 5 years ago. Marcus was working as a janitor, 3rd floor, mopping the hallway outside the executive offices. The fire alarm went off. Everyone evacuated. Marcus followed procedure, headed for the stairs. Then he heard screaming, coming from the parking garage. He should have kept going. Should have gotten out like everyone else. But his feet carried him toward the sound instead of away from it. The garage was full of smoke. Black. Thick. Choking. A car was on fire. Mercedes. Flames pouring from the engine. And inside a man. Unconscious. Trapped. Marcus didn't think. He grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall, ran to the car, smashed the window with the base of the extinguisher. The heat was incredible. His lungs burned, his eyes watered. He reached in, grabbed the man's arms, pulled. The man was heavy, dead weight. Marcus dragged him across the concrete, away from the flames, away from the smoke. He laid him on the ground near the exit, checked for breathing, checked for yes. Shallow, but yes. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Marcus waited until he saw the ambulance pull up. Then he went back inside. His shift wasn't over. The 3rd floor still needed mopping. "That man was George Whitmore," Thomas said. "You saved his life." Marcus stared at the photograph. The old man in the picture looked vaguely familiar. Maybe. "I didn't know who he was." "That's exactly the point." Thomas pulled out another document. "After you saved him, he tried to find you, to thank you, but you'd already left. No one knew your name. The security cameras were destroyed in the fire. So how did he find me? It took him 3 weeks. He hired private investigators. When he finally tracked you down, he didn't approach you. Instead, he watched. Watched me. For 5 years, Mr. Johnson. He watched how you lived, how you raised your son, how you treated people. Thomas pulled out a handwritten letter. He wrote this 3 days before he died. He asked me to read it to you. Marcus's hands were shaking. Thomas began to read Marcus. You don't know me, but I know you. 5 years ago, you saved my life. You pulled me from a burning car when everyone else ran away. And then you disappeared. You didn't wait for thanks, didn't ask for money. You just went back to work. I spent years trying to understand why. What kind of man does that? So I watched you. I saw you work 3 jobs to pay your wife's medical bills. I saw you raise your son alone after she died. I saw you give your last $20 to a homeless veteran. I saw you fix an old woman's roof for free because she reminded you of your mother. I built an empire. But my own children only learned how to take. They're circling my deathbed like vultures waiting to divide the spoils. You have nothing, Marcus. But you're richer than any of them. This inheritance is yours. Not because you saved my life, because you deserve it. Because you'll use it the way I never could. There's one condition. On the day of my funeral, Eliza, my adopted daughter, will be there. If you help her without knowing who she is, or what you might gain, the money is yours. If you ignore her like everyone else, it goes to charity. I'm betting on you, Marcus. Don't let me down. George Whitmore. The apartment was silent. Jalen stared at his father with eyes wide as plates. Dad, are we rich now? Marcus couldn't answer. His throat was closed. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Thomas stood. He placed the documents on the table. Come to my office tomorrow morning. We'll begin the paperwork. He walked to the door. Stopped. Turned. One more thing, Mr. Johnson. George's children, Victoria and Alexander, they're going to fight this. They've already called their lawyers. Let them. Thomas raised an eyebrow. You're not worried. I didn't ask for this money. I don't need it to be happy. But if George Whitmore wanted me to have it, I'm not going to let his kids bully me into walking away. Thomas smiled. He really was right about you. He left. The door closed. Marcus sat in the darkness, holding his son, surrounded by documents that promised to change everything. $500 million. Enough to pay off every debt. Enough to give Jalen everything he'd ever dreamed of. Enough to never work 3 jobs again. But Marcus knew something Thomas didn't. Victoria Whitmore's slap was still burning on his cheek. And people like her people, who hit strangers at funerals, who abandoned pregnant women, who treated the help like dirt, they didn't lose gracefully. They destroyed. Somewhere across Chicago, in a mansion filled with marble and money, Victoria Whitmore was picking up her phone. Alexander, we have a problem. Victoria Whitmore didn't sleep that night. She sat in her father's study, surrounded by leather-bound books he'd never read and paintings he'd bought to impress people who never came. The room smelled like cigars and old money. She hated it. She'd always hated it. But she hated losing more. Alexander arrived at midnight. He walked in without knocking, loosening his tie, his face tight with controlled fury. Tell me this is a joke, he said. It's not. $500 million to a cemetery worker. A black cemetery worker. Victoria poured herself another whiskey. Father's final insult. Alexander sat across from her. I spoke to our lawyers. They say the will is airtight. Father amended it 6 months ago. He was of sound mind. Had 3 witnesses. 2 doctors confirmed his mental capacity. So we challenge the witnesses. We can't. One of them is a retired Supreme Court justice. Father knew exactly what he was doing. Victoria slammed her glass down. Whiskey splashed onto the mahogany desk. Then we go after Johnson directly. Everyone has secrets. Everyone has a price. You think he'll take a buyout? I think he's a man who makes $40,000 a year and just got handed $500 million. He has no idea what he's doing. He'll crack. Alexander leaned back. And if he doesn't? Victoria smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Then we make his life so miserable he begs us to take it back. The next morning, Marcus woke to the sound of his phone ringing. He grabbed it from the nightstand. Unknown number. Hello. Mr. Johnson, this is Victoria Whitmore. Marcus sat up. His cheek still ached where she'd slapped him. What do you want? I want to apologize. Her voice was smooth, practiced. My behavior yesterday was inexcusable. I was grieving. I took it out on you. That was wrong. Marcus didn't believe a word of it. Okay. I'd like to meet with you, today if possible, to discuss the situation like adults. What situation? The inheritance, Mr. Johnson. Surely you understand this is complicated. Seems pretty simple to me. Your father left me his money. I didn't ask for it, but I'm not giving it back. Silence on the other end. Then, everyone has a number, Mr. Johnson. What's yours? Excuse me. How much would it take for you to walk away? 5,000,010. I'm prepared to write you a check today. Marcus laughed. He couldn't help it. Lady, your father watched me for 5 years. He knew exactly who I was giving his money to. You think I'm gonna sell out his wishes for a few million? You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. He hung up. 3 seconds later, the phone rang again. Mr. Johnson. He hung up again. It rang a third time. He turned it off. Jalen appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Dad, who keeps calling. Nobody important, buddy. Go get dressed. I'm making pancakes. Real pancakes. Not the frozen kind. Marcus smiled. For the first time in years, he could afford real pancakes. Real pancakes. With real maple syrup. Jalen's face lit up. He ran to get dressed. Marcus stood in the kitchen cracking eggs into a bowl, trying to pretend his hands weren't shaking. He knew Victoria wasn't done. People like her never were. The first attack came 3 days later. Marcus was walking Jalen to school when a black SUV pulled up beside them. The window rolled down. A man in sunglasses leaned out. Marcus Johnson. Marcus pulled Jalen behind him. Who's asking? Channel 7 News. We're doing a story on George Whitmore's controversial will. Care to comment? No. Is it true you were having an affair with his adopted daughter? What, no? I never even met her before the funeral. Sources say you've been planning this for years, that you targeted George Whitmore. That's a lie. Then why did he leave you $500 million? Marcus grabbed Jalen's hand and walked faster. The SUV followed. Is it true you have a criminal record, Mr. Johnson? I've never been arrested in my life. What about the assault charges from 2019? Marcus stopped. He turned. There were no assault charges. I don't know what you're talking about. The reporter smiled. That's not what our sources say. The SUV drove off. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, his heart pounding. Dad. Jalen's voice was small. What did that man mean? What's a criminal record? Nothing, baby. He was confused. Come on, we're gonna be late. But Marcus knew. He knew exactly what was happening. Victoria was playing dirty. That night the story aired. Marcus watched it on Mrs. Patterson's television, Jalen asleep in the next room. Controversy surrounds the Whitmore estate tonight, the anchor said. George Whitmore, Chicago real estate mogul, has left his entire fortune estimated at over $500 million to a cemetery groundskeeper named Marcus Johnson. But questions are being raised about Johnson's past. The screen showed a mugshot. Marcus's blood ran cold. It wasn't him. The man in the photo looked vaguely similar. Black, same age range, similar build, but it wasn't him. Records show a Marcus Johnson was arrested in 2019 for aggravated assault. While it's unclear if this is the same Marcus Johnson, Marcus turned off the television. His hands were shaking. "Lord," he whispered, "what am I supposed to do?" The phone rang. He almost didn't answer. But the caller ID showed Thomas Reed's name. "Did you see the news?" Thomas asked. "Yeah. It's not you. We know that. But they're gonna keep pushing. They're gonna dig up every Marcus Johnson in Chicago and try to connect you to their crimes. How do I stop them? You don't. You weather the storm. You keep your head down. And you let me handle the legal side." "What about my son? Kids at his school watch the news. Their parents watch the news. What happens when they start asking questions?" Thomas was quiet for a moment. "I won't lie to you, Mr. Johnson. This is going to get worse before it gets better. The Whitmores have money connections and no conscience. They will try to destroy you. So what am I supposed to do? Just take it?" "No. You fight back. But not with their weapons. You fight back by being exactly who George knew you were. A good man. An honest man. A man who doesn't break." Marcus hung up. He walked to Jalen's room. The boy was sleeping peacefully, clutching the stuffed elephant Sarah had given him the week before she died. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry, baby," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He didn't know what he was apologizing for. Maybe for everything that was coming. The next morning, it got worse. Marcus walked Jalen to school like always, but this time, parents stared, whispered, pulled their children away. One woman, Tommy's mother, blocked the entrance. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "Excuse me. We saw the news. We know what you did." "I didn't do anything. That wasn't me in the mugshot." "That's what they all say." Jalen tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Dad, what's happening?" Tommy appeared behind his mother. He pointed at Jalen. "My mom says your dad is a criminal. She says we can't play together anymore." Jalen's face crumpled. "Dad." Marcus knelt beside his son. "Go inside, Jay. I'll pick you up at 3. Everything's going to be okay." But Tommy said, "I know what Tommy said. But Tommy's wrong, and you know he's wrong. Right." Jalen nodded, but his eyes were wet. He walked into the school alone. Marcus watched him go. His heart was breaking. Tommy's mother was still standing there, arms crossed, victorious. "Stay away from our children," she said, "or I'm calling the police." Marcus didn't respond. He turned and walked away. He made it 2 blocks before he had to stop. He leaned against a brick wall, fighting to breathe. 3 days ago, he'd been invisible, poor but peaceful, struggling but surviving. Now his son was being bullied. His neighbors were whispering. Strangers with cameras were following him down the street. For what? For money he never asked for. For kindness he'd given freely. Maybe Victoria was right. Maybe everyone did have a price. Maybe his price was his son's happiness. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Ready to talk now? VW." He stared at it. His thumb hovered over the reply button. Then another text came in. This one from Eliza. "Don't give up. Meet me at the coffee shop on Market Street. 1 hour. Please." He deleted Victoria's message. He went to meet Eliza. She was already there when he arrived, sitting in a corner booth, both hands wrapped around a mug, looking exhausted. Her pregnancy was further along than he'd realized. 8 months at least. He slid into the seat across from her. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks." "I saw the news. It's all lies, you know. Victoria planted that story. She has a contact at Channel 7. They've been in her pocket for years." "How do you know?" "Because I used to be one of them." Eliza took a sip of her tea. "I grew up in that family. I know how they operate. Destroy first, ask questions. Never." "So what am I supposed to do? They're going after my son. 7 years old, and kids are calling him names because of me." "I know, and I'm sorry. But if you quit now, they win. And everything George worked for, everything he believed about you, dies with him." Marcus shook his head. I didn't sign up for this. I'm not a fighter. I'm a groundskeeper. I dig graves and rake leaves. That's all I am." "That's not all you are." Eliza reached across the table and took his hand. "You're the man who caught me when I fell. You're the man who pulled George from a burning car. You're the man who raises his son alone and works 3 jobs and still finds time to help strangers. None of that matters if my son gets hurt. Jalen is stronger than you think. He's your son. He's got your heart." Marcus looked at her. Really looked. "Why do you care so much? You barely know me." "Because George loved you." Her eyes filled with tears. "He talked about you all the time. The man from the fire. That's what he called you. He said you were proof that good people still existed. He didn't know me. He knew enough. He knew more than his own children ever bothered to learn." She pulled an envelope from her bag. Sealed. His name written on the front in shaky handwriting. "He asked me to give you this, if everything went the way he hoped." Marcus took it. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Handwritten. He read it aloud, his voice barely a whisper. "Marcus, if you're reading this, it means Eliza confirmed you're still the man I believed you to be. I know my children will fight you. They'll say you don't deserve this. But let me tell you something." He paused, swallowed hard. "I spent my whole life making money. I thought that's what mattered. I thought if I built something big enough, my children would respect me. They didn't. They just waited for me to die so they could take it." Eliza wiped her eyes. Marcus continued. "You saved my life and didn't ask for anything. You've spent your whole life helping people who can't help you back. That's not weakness. That's strength. This inheritance is yours because you'll do what I couldn't. You'll use it to make the world better, not just yourself richer." His throat closed. He couldn't speak. Eliza finished for him. "Don't refuse this gift because you're afraid. Accept it because your son deserves a father who doesn't have to work 3 jobs. Because people like you deserve to win sometimes. I trust you, Marcus. Now trust yourself." The paper shook in his hands. George Whitmore had never met him, had never spoken to him, had only watched from a distance as Marcus lived his quiet, invisible life. But somehow the old man had seen him, really seen him, better than anyone had since Sarah died. "There's something else," Eliza said. "Something you need to see." She pulled out her phone, opened a video. He recorded this 3 days before he died. He was so weak he could barely sit up, but he insisted. She pressed play. George Whitmore's face appeared on screen. Thin, gray, oxygen tubes in his nose. But his eyes were sharp, alive. "Marcus," George said, "if you're watching this, it means my children came after you. It means they tried to make you quit." Marcus couldn't breathe. "I'm sorry for that. I raised them wrong. I gave them everything except the one thing they needed. The understanding that wealth without character is just greed with a big bank account." George coughed, winced, continued. "You don't know me, but I know you. I watched you for 5 years. I saw you give your last $20 to a homeless veteran. I saw you work double shifts so you could buy your son new shoes. I saw you fix an old woman's leaking roof for free because she reminded you of your mother." The video blurred. Marcus realized he was crying. "I was rich my whole life," George said. "But I was poor where it mattered. You're the opposite. You have nothing but you're rich in every way that counts." George leaned closer to the camera. "My children will try to break you. They'll attack your reputation. Turn your neighbors against you. They might even go after your son. That's who they are. That's who I taught them to be." His voice cracked. "But I'm asking you, begging you, don't let them win. Don't let them prove that cruelty beats kindness. Don't let them make you believe you're not worthy of this." He coughed again, harder this time. "You saved my life twice, Marcus. Once from fire. Once from dying knowing I'd left everything to people who didn't deserve it." George's eyes were wet. "Be brave. For your son. For yourself. For me. The video ended. Marcus sat in the silence. Tears ran down his face. He didn't try to stop them. Eliza was crying too. "He loved you," she said. "Like a son. He didn't even know me. He knew your heart. That's all that mattered." Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "What am I supposed to do now?" "You fight. Not like they fight with lies and lawyers and dirty tricks. You fight by being exactly who you are, by showing the world what George saw in you." "And if they destroy me anyway?" Eliza smiled. It was sad, but it was real. "Then at least you'll know you didn't give up. At least Jalen will know his father stood for something." Marcus looked at the letter in his hands. George's shaky handwriting. The words of a dying man betting everything on a stranger's goodness. He folded it carefully, put it in his pocket. "I'm not quitting," he said. "I know. I don't know how to fight them, but I'm not quitting." Eliza nodded. "Then let's figure it out together." Marcus took a deep breath. For 3 years he'd been surviving. Just surviving. One foot in front of the other. One day at a time. Keep moving. Don't think. Don't feel. But George Whitmore had seen something more in him. Maybe it was time to see it himself. The phone buzzed again. Victoria. Another text. "Last chance, Mr. Johnson. Take the deal or face the consequences." He typed his reply. "No." 3 dots appeared. Victoria was typing. "You'll regret this." Marcus smiled. "Maybe, but I'll regret quitting more." He put the phone away. Outside the coffee shop window, the city moved on. Cars, people, life. None of them knew what was coming. But Marcus did. And for the first time since Sarah died, he wasn't afraid. He picked up Jalen from school at 3 o'clock. The boy ran to him like always. But something was different. His smile was forced. His eyes were red. Marcus knelt down. "What happened, buddy?" "Nothing. Jay." The boy's lip trembled. Tommy said you're going to jail. He said bad guys always go to jail." "I'm not going to jail." "Promise." "Promise." "He said you stole money from old people. He said that's why the police are coming." Marcus pulled his son into a hug. "Tommy doesn't know what he's talking about, and neither does his mom." "Then why is everybody being mean to us?" "Because some people are scared of things they don't understand. And when people get scared, they do mean things." Jalen pulled back, looked at his father. "Are you scared, Dad?" Marcus thought about it. "Yeah," he said honestly. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of letting you down. Of not being strong enough. Of everything changing and not knowing if I can handle it." "But you always handle everything." "I try, buddy. I try real hard." Jalen wiped his nose with his sleeve. "Dad?" "Yeah." "If everybody hates us, can we still get pancakes?" Marcus laughed. He couldn't help it. The question was so simple, so pure. "Yeah, buddy. We can still get pancakes. The real kind. The real kind, with extra syrup." Jalen smiled. A real smile this time. They walked home together hand in hand. Behind them, a black SUV followed at a distance. Marcus saw it. He didn't care. Let them follow. Let them watch. Let them report every step he took. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was being exactly who George Whitmore believed he was. A good man. A father. A fighter. And nobody, not Victoria Whitmore, not Alexander, not all the money and power in Chicago was going to take that from him. That night after Jalen was asleep, Marcus sat at the kitchen table. The documents Thomas Reed had left were spread out in front of him. $500 million. Properties, investments, company shares. He couldn't understand half of it. Numbers and terms that meant nothing to him. But one section caught his eye, the George Whitmore Foundation. George had already set it up, already funded it. $10 million designated for families struggling with medical debt. A handwritten note was attached. This is how it starts, Marcus. One family at a time. Show my children what I tried to teach them. Marcus stared at the note. Then he picked up his phone. He called Thomas Reed. Mr. Johnson? It's late. Is everything okay? I want to see them. See who? Victoria and Alexander. Face to face. No lawyers. No cameras. Just us. Thomas was silent for a moment. That's not advisable. They'll try to manipulate you. Intimidate you. I know. Then why? Marcus looked at George's letter on the table. Because George spent his whole life avoiding hard conversations with his kids. And look where it got him. I'm not making the same mistake. What are you planning to do? I don't know yet, but I know I have to try. Thomas sighed. I'll set up the meeting. But Marcus... Yeah. Don't trust a word they say. And whatever you do, don't go alone. Marcus hung up. He walked to Jalen's room, watched his son sleep for a long moment. Tomorrow, everything would change. He didn't know if he was ready. But Sarah had always said, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward anyway. Marcus was moving forward, whether he was ready or not. The meeting was set for Friday at noon. Thomas Reed called Marcus the night before with the details. Neutral ground, a conference room at a downtown hotel. No lawyers present. That was Marcus's condition. Victoria had agreed. That made Marcus nervous. Victoria Whitmore didn't agree to anything unless she thought she could win. You sure about this? Thomas asked. No. Then why are you doing it? Marcus looked at Jalen's door. The boy was asleep. Safe, for now. Because running doesn't work. Hiding doesn't work. They're going to keep coming until I face them. And what are you going to say? The truth. That's all I've got. Thomas was quiet for a moment. I've known the Whitmore family for 20 years, Marcus. I watched those kids grow up. Victoria was cold from the day she was born. But Alexander, there's something still human in him. Buried deep, but there. Why are you telling me this? Because if you have any chance of ending this without a war, it's through him, not her. Marcus thanked him and hung up. He didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling thinking about Sarah. She would have known what to do. She always did. When Marcus got overwhelmed, she'd put her hands on his face and say, "One thing at a time, baby. You can't eat an elephant in one bite." But Sarah was gone, and this elephant was about to swallow him whole. The next morning, Eliza showed up at his door. "I'm coming with you," she said. "No, I'm not asking." "Eliza, you're 8 months pregnant. You don't need this stress." "What I don't need is to sit at home while you walk into the lion's den alone." She crossed her arms. "George asked me to watch over you. That's what I'm doing." "He asked you to confirm I was a good person. You did that. Job's done." "The job's not done until you're safe, until his legacy is protected." Marcus studied her face. She meant it, every word. "You really loved him, didn't you? He was my father, the only one that mattered." Marcus nodded slowly. "Fine, but you stay behind me. If things get ugly..." "They won't." "How do you know?" Eliza smiled. It was fierce. "Because Victoria's afraid of me. Always has been." They took a cab downtown. The hotel was one of those places Marcus had walked past 100 times but never entered. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, bellhops in uniforms that cost more than his monthly rent. The concierge looked at Marcus's worn jacket and faded jeans. "May I help you, sir?" "Conference room B. I have a meeting." "Your name?" "Marcus Johnson." The concierge's eyes widened slightly. He'd seen the news. "Right this way, Mr. Johnson." They took an elevator to the 3rd floor. The concierge led them down a hallway lined with oil paintings and stopped at a heavy wooden door. "They're waiting for you." Marcus took a breath. Eliza squeezed his arm. Remember who you are. He pushed open the door. Victoria sat at the head of a long conference table. Alexander was beside her. Both of them wore black like they were still in mourning. But their eyes held no grief, only calculation. Victoria saw Eliza and her face tightened. I didn't realize this was a family reunion. Hello, Victoria. Eliza walked to the opposite end of the table and sat down. You look tired. Guilt keeping you up at night. Guilt. Victoria laughed. I don't know the meaning of the word. I know, that's always been your problem. Marcus sat beside Eliza. He kept his hands flat on the table, steady. Alexander spoke first. His voice was calmer than his sister's, measured. Thank you for coming, Mr. Johnson. I know this isn't easy. Nothing about this is easy. I want you to know we're not here to threaten you. We're here to talk. Victoria snorted. Speak for yourself. Victoria. Alexander's voice sharpened. Let me handle this. She rolled her eyes but said nothing. Alexander leaned forward. Mr. Johnson, I'm going to be honest with you. When I first heard about my father's will, I was furious. Not at you, at him. At the idea that he'd rather give his fortune to a stranger than his own children. I understand. Do you understand what it's like to spend your entire life trying to earn your father's approval, only to find out he gave everything to a man who dug graves for a living? Marcus held his gaze. No, I don't understand that. My father left when I was 6. I never had anyone's approval to earn. Alexander blinked. He hadn't expected that. But I understand disappointment. Marcus continued. I understand feeling like no matter how hard you work, it's never enough. I understand looking at other people's lives and wondering why yours has to be so hard. Then you understand why we're fighting this. I understand why you think you have to. But I don't think that's what your father wanted. What my father wanted, Victoria cut in, was to humiliate us, to punish us for not being the perfect children he imagined. No. Eliza's voice was sharp. What he wanted was for you to learn something, to finally understand that money isn't everything. Easy for you to say. You already threw away your inheritance for a teacher who made $40,000 a year. Michael made me happy, something you've never understood. Michael is dead, Eliza, and you're broke pregnant and sitting here defending a man you've known for a week. That's not happiness. That's desperation. Eliza stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. Don't you dare speak about Michael. Or what, you'll faint again. Have your new bodyguard catch you. Marcus stood too. That's enough. Victoria turned to him. Her eyes were ice. This doesn't concern you. You made it concern me when you started going after my son. I don't know what you're talking about. The news story, the fake mugshot, the whisper campaign in his school, that was all you. Victoria smiled. It was cold. Prove it. I don't need to prove it. I know who you are. George knew who you are. That's why he gave me the money instead of you. The smile vanished. You think you're better than us. Victoria's voice rose. You think because you caught a pregnant woman at a funeral, you deserve $500 million? I don't think I deserve anything. But your father did. He watched me for 5 years. He saw who I really am. Can you say the same about yourself? Have you ever really looked at who you've become? Victoria slammed her palm on the table. I've built more in 1 year than you'll build in your entire pathetic life. And yet your father still chose me. Silence. Victoria was shaking. Her composure was cracking. Alexander stood slowly. He walked to the window, his back to the room. 5 years, he said quietly. He watched you for 5 years, and in all that time he never once called us, never once asked how we were doing, never tried to repair what was broken. Maybe he didn't know how, Marcus said. Or maybe he just didn't care enough to try. Alexander turned. His eyes were red. Do you know what it's like to be George Whitmore's son? To grow up in a house full of money and empty of love? He was never home. Never at our games, our graduations, our weddings. He was always working, always building his empire. I'm sorry. We're not looking for your pity. It's not pity. It's understanding. My father was the same way, always chasing something, never there for the moments that mattered. Alexander studied him. Then you know what it does to a person. I know it leaves a hole, one you spend your whole life trying to fill. And how do you fill it? Marcus thought about Jalen, about pancakes in the morning, about bedtime stories and homework help and being there. Just being there. You fill it by being different, by breaking the cycle. Victoria laughed bitterly. And you think we haven't tried? I think you've been too busy trying to earn his approval to realize it was never coming, not the way you wanted it. So what? We're supposed to just accept that he loved a stranger more than his own children. He didn't love me more. He loved me differently. He saw something in me that reminded him of who he wished he'd been. Eliza spoke softly. He told me once that his biggest regret was teaching you both that success was measured in dollars. He said he created monsters and didn't know how to undo it. Victoria's face crumpled for just a moment. Then the mask returned. He could have tried. He could have actually talked to us. He was afraid, Eliza said. Afraid you'd reject him. Afraid it was too late. It was too late. Alexander's voice cracked. 20 years too late. The room fell silent. Marcus watched the siblings. For the first time, he saw past the anger and entitlement. He saw two broken children still waiting for a father who would never come home. I didn't ask for this money, Marcus said. And I'm not going to pretend I understand everything George was thinking. But I know one thing. He didn't leave me this inheritance to hurt you. He left it because he thought I could do something he couldn't. And what's that? Victoria asked. Show you another way. She scoffed. You show us you're a cemetery worker. I'm a father, a good one. That's more than George ever was. And he knew it. Alexander walked back to the table. He sat down heavily. What do you want, Mr. Johnson, really? What do you want from all this? Marcus considered the question. I want my son to grow up without holes in his shoes. I want to pay off my wife's medical bills. I want to stop working 3 jobs and actually be home for dinner. And the rest? The hundreds of millions. George already told me what to do with it. He set up a foundation for families drowning in medical debt. I'm going to run it. Every dollar that isn't keeping my son fed is going to help people who were where I was 6 months ago. Victoria stared at him. You're giving it away. Most of it. Yeah. Why? Because I don't need $500 million to be happy. I just need enough. Alexander and Victoria exchanged a look. Something passed between them that Marcus couldn't read. You're either the most naive man I've ever met, Victoria said, or the most dangerous. I'm neither. I'm just a guy who got lucky and wants to do right by it. Another silence. Longer this time. Then Alexander said something that changed everything. There's something you don't know, Mr. Johnson. Something Eliza doesn't even know. Eliza frowned. What are you talking about? Alexander looked at his sister. Victoria nodded slowly. 3 years ago, Alexander said, there was a motorcycle accident near Lincoln Elementary School. Marcus's blood went cold. A man was lying in the street. A truck was coming. Someone ran out and pulled him to safety. Marcus remembered. The motorcycle. The blood. The truck bearing down. That man was our uncle, Alexander said. David Whitmore, Eliza's father. Eliza's hand flew to her mouth. What? He told us about it later. said a black man in work clothes saved his life, dragged him to the sidewalk, waited for the ambulance, then disappeared before David could thank him. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed. "We didn't make the connection until yesterday," Alexander continued. "Victoria was going through old files looking for anything we could use against you. She found the police report from the accident. The description matched you. Same neighborhood. Same time you were walking home from picking up your son." Eliza was crying. "You saved my father, too." Marcus nodded. He remembered now. The motorcycle. The man's eyes dazed and confused. The truck horn blaring. He'd pulled the man to safety without thinking. The same way he'd pulled George from the fire. The same way he'd caught Eliza at the funeral. "I didn't know who he was," Marcus said. "I didn't know any of you." "That's exactly the point." Alexander's voice was thick. "You saved both of them. Our father and our uncle. Two strangers. And you never asked for anything in return." Victoria was staring at him. Her eyes were wet. "Who does that?" she whispered. "Who saves people for nothing?" "I wasn't saving them for nothing. I was saving them because they were people, because they needed help. That's not how the world works. It's how my world works." Alexander stood. He walked to Marcus. For a moment they just looked at each other. Then Alexander extended his hand. "I'm sorry," he said. "For everything. The news stories, the harassment, the threats. I was wrong." Marcus shook his hand. "I know. My father was right about you, and I was too blind to see it." Victoria stood slowly. She didn't extend her hand, but her posture had changed. The coldness was gone. "I'm not ready to apologize," she said, "but I'm ready to stop fighting. That's enough for now. What happens next?" Marcus looked at Eliza, at Alexander, at Victoria. "I don't know, but I know we can figure it out together, if you're willing." Alexander nodded. "I'm willing." Victoria said nothing, but she didn't disagree. Eliza stood. She walked to Victoria. "We used to be sisters," she said. "Before all this, before Michael, before the money tore us apart. We were never sisters. You were just Father's charity project." "Is that really what you believe? Or is that what you told yourself so you wouldn't have to feel guilty about pushing me away?" Victoria's lip trembled. "I was jealous of you. Father looked at you like you were everything he wished we could be, and I hated you for it. I never wanted to replace you. I just wanted to belong." "I know." Victoria's voice broke. "I know that now." She hugged Eliza. It was stiff, awkward. Neither of them knew how to do it anymore. But it was a start. Marcus watched them. He thought about Sarah, about how she'd always said that no wound was too deep to heal, that no family was too broken to fix. He hadn't believed her then. He was starting to believe her now. The meeting ended an hour later. No resolution, no signed agreements, but no more war either. Alexander promised to call off the media attacks. Victoria promised to stop the whisper campaign at Jalen's school. Neither of them admitted they'd started it, but they didn't deny it either. Marcus walked out of the hotel with Eliza beside him. The sun was bright. The city was loud. Life was moving on. "You did it," Eliza said. "You actually got through to them." "I didn't do anything. George did. He set this up. He knew his kids needed to see what he saw in me." "Maybe. But you still had to show up. You still had to face them." Marcus thought about the meeting, about Alexander's tears, about Victoria's cracking mask. "They're not evil," he said. "They're just lost." "I know. Maybe that's why George did this. Not to punish them, but to give them a reason to change." "You think they will?" "I don't know. But I think they want to, deep down." They walked in silence for a while. Then Eliza stopped. "Marcus." "Yeah." Thank you. For saving my father. I never knew it was you. I didn't know either. Not until today. But you did it anyway. That's what matters. She hugged him. Her pregnant belly pressed against him. He could feel the baby kicking. You're going to be okay, she said. All of you. I hope so. I know so. She pulled back, wiped her eyes. Now go home. Your son is waiting. Marcus picked up Jalen from school at 3 o'clock. The boy ran to him like always, but this time he was smiling. Dad, Tommy said sorry. He did. His mom made him. She came to school and told the teacher that she was wrong, that the news lied. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. That's good, buddy. And guess what else? What? Destiny said I was brave. She said only brave people have dads that everyone talks about. Marcus laughed. Is that so? Yeah, she's pretty smart. She sounds like it. They walked home together. The sun was warm on their faces. Dad. Yeah, buddy. Are the mean people going to leave us alone now? Marcus thought about Victoria and Alexander, about the long road ahead, about all the things that could still go wrong. I think so, he said. I think they finally understand. Understand what? That we're not the enemy. That nobody has to be the enemy. Jalen nodded slowly. That's what Mom used to say. She said fighting was for people who forgot how to talk. Your mom was a smart woman. I know. I remember. They got home as the sun was setting. Marcus made dinner. Real food this time. Chicken and vegetables. Jalen set the table. They ate together, talking about school and destiny and the book Jalen was reading. Normal things. Family things. After dinner, Marcus sat on the couch with George's letter in his hand. Jalen climbed up beside him. What's that, Dad? A letter from a man who believed in me. The man who gave us the money. Yeah. Was he nice? Marcus thought about George Whitmore. A man he'd never really met. A man who'd watched him from the shadows for 5 years. A man who'd trusted a stranger with everything he'd built. I think he wanted to be, Marcus said. I think he tried to be at the end. That's sad. What is waiting until the end to be nice? You should be nice the whole time. Marcus pulled his son close. You're right, buddy. You're absolutely right. He looked at the letter one more time. Don't refuse this gift because you're afraid. Accept it because your son deserves a father who doesn't have to work 3 jobs. Because people like you deserve to win sometimes. For 3 years, Marcus had been surviving. Now finally he was starting to live. And somewhere he liked to think George Whitmore was watching. Smiling. At peace. The first check Marcus wrote was for $143,000. He sat at his kitchen table, pen in hand, staring at the number. 3 years of debt. 3 years of working himself to the bone. 3 years of Sarah's ghost hanging over him. Gone. Just like that. He signed his name and sealed the envelope. Jalen watched from across the table. What's that, Dad? Freedom, buddy. That's what this is. He mailed it the next morning. The hospital's billing department called him 3 days later confused. They'd never seen anyone pay off that much debt at once. Is this some kind of mistake? The woman asked. No mistake. Just took me a while to get here. He hung up and cried. Not sad tears. Relief. The weight he'd been carrying for 3 years finally lifted off his shoulders. That night he made Jalen's favorite dinner. Fried chicken. Mashed potatoes. Green beans with bacon. Dad, this is a lot of food. I know. Are we celebrating something? Yeah, buddy. We're celebrating being free. Jalen didn't fully understand, but he ate 3 helpings anyway. The next week, Marcus met with Thomas Reed to discuss the foundation. George had already laid the groundwork. $10 million in seed funding, a board of directors, a mission statement. All that was missing was someone to run it. George wanted you to be the face of it, Thomas said. He believed you understood what these families were going through. I do. I was one of them. Then you know what they need. Marcus thought about the nights he'd spent staring at medical bills, the shame of not being able to afford his son's field trip, the exhaustion of working 3 jobs and still falling behind. "They need someone to tell them they're not alone," he said. "That's what they need." Thomas nodded. "Then that's what you'll give them." The George Whitmore Foundation officially launched 6 weeks later. Marcus stood at the podium facing a room full of reporters and cameras. His hands were shaking. Public speaking had never been his thing. Eliza sat in the front row, her baby due any day now. She gave him an encouraging nod. Alexander was there too, and Victoria. They sat in the back watching. Marcus cleared his throat. "I'm not a businessman," he began. "I'm not a politician. I'm not even a college graduate. I'm just a man who got lucky." The room was silent. "6 weeks ago I was working 3 jobs. I was drowning in medical debt. I couldn't afford new shoes for my son. And then a man I'd never really met gave me everything he had." He paused. His voice was thick. "George Whitmore saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He believed that kindness mattered, that helping strangers wasn't weakness, it was strength. He spent 5 years watching me, waiting to see if I was the man he hoped I was." He looked at the audience, at the cameras, at his son sitting beside Eliza. "I'm not here to tell you I deserved this inheritance. I don't know if anyone deserves $500 million. But I know what I'm going to do with it." He pulled out a piece of paper. "This is a medical bill. $47,000. It belongs to a woman named Rosa Martinez. She's a single mother of 3. Her youngest has leukemia. She works 2 jobs and still can't keep up with the payments." He held up the paper. "This bill is paid. As of this morning, Rosa Martinez owes nothing." A murmur went through the crowd. "That's what this foundation is for. Not for me. Not for the Whitmore family. For the Rosas of the world. For the people working themselves to death and still drowning." He set the paper down. "George Whitmore made his fortune building things. I'm going to honor his legacy by building something too. Not buildings, not companies. Lives. One family at a time." He stepped back from the podium. The room erupted in applause. Jalen ran to him. Marcus scooped him up and held him tight. "You did good, Dad." "I hope so, buddy. I really hope so." In the back of the room, Victoria wiped her eyes. Alexander watched his sister. "Are you crying?" "Shut up. I've never seen you cry." "I said shut up." But she didn't look away from Marcus. Something in her face had changed. Something hard was becoming soft. Alexander felt it too. Maybe their father had known what he was doing after all. The first month, the foundation received over 5,000 applications. Marcus read every single one. Stories of parents choosing between medicine and food. Stories of children missing school because their families couldn't afford the bus fare. Stories of people just like him working until they broke and still falling behind. He couldn't help everyone, but he could help some. Rosa Martinez was the first. He met her at her apartment on the south side. She opened the door confused. "Mr. Johnson, call me Marcus." "I don't understand. The hospital said my bill was paid. Was that really you?" "It was the foundation, George Whitmore's foundation." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "I've been praying for a miracle. I didn't think anyone was listening." "Someone was, and now we're here to help." He sat with her for an hour, listened to her story, learned about her son Miguel, who was fighting leukemia with a smile on his face, learned about her daughters who helped with chores so their mother could work extra shifts. When he left, Rosa hugged him. "You're an angel," she said. "God sent you to us." "I'm not an angel. I'm just a guy who got lucky, and I want to share that luck with people who need it." He helped 20 more families that first month, then 50, then 100. Word spread. The foundation became a beacon of hope for families across Chicago. People started calling it the Whitmore Miracle. But Marcus never forgot where he came from. Every morning he still woke up at 5:30. Old habits died hard. He made Jalen's lunch real food now, not peanut butter sandwiches. He walked his son to school. He stayed for the morning drop-off talking to other parents. Tommy's mother apologized to him one morning. "I was wrong about you," she said. "I believed the news. I should have asked you directly." "It's okay." "No, it's not. I taught my son to judge someone based on gossip instead of character. That's on me." "We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." She nodded slowly. "Tommy wants to invite Jalen to his birthday party. If that's okay with you?" Marcus smiled. "I think Jalen would like that." Jalen definitely liked that. He came home from the party with chocolate cake on his shirt and the biggest smile Marcus had ever seen. "Dad, Tommy has a trampoline, a real one. Can we get a trampoline?" "Maybe. We'll see." That means yes. That means maybe. But Marcus was already planning where to put it in their new backyard. They moved into the new house 3 months after the foundation launched. It wasn't a mansion. Marcus had been clear about that. No marble floors, no chandeliers, no 12-car garages. Just a house, 3 bedrooms, a yard, a neighborhood with good schools. The kind of house Sarah had always dreamed about. Jalen ran through the empty rooms, his footsteps echoing off the walls. "Dad, I have my own room." "You sure do. And there's a tree in the backyard. Can we build a tree house?" "I think that can be arranged." "And there's a garage. Are we getting a car?" "Already ordered one." Jalen stopped running. He looked at his father with serious eyes. "Dad?" "Yeah. Is this real? Like really real? Or am I gonna wake up and we'll be back in the apartment?" Marcus knelt down. He put his hands on his son's shoulders. "This is real, buddy. I promise. No more sharing walls with neighbors. No more holes in your shoes. No more worrying if we can afford dinner. Because of the man who gave us money. Because of George Whitmore, yeah. I wish I could thank him." "Me too, buddy, me too." They stood together in the empty living room surrounded by boxes and possibilities. "Dad." "Yeah. I think Mom would have liked this house." Marcus's throat tightened. "I think so too. Do you think she can see us from heaven?" "I hope so. I hope she's watching right now. I hope she's proud." "She's definitely proud, Dad. You're the best dad in the world." Marcus pulled his son into a hug. He held on tight. "I'm trying, buddy. Every day I'm trying." Eliza had her baby 2 weeks later. A boy. Healthy. Strong. She named him George Michael Whitmore, after her adoptive father and her late husband. Marcus was at the hospital when it happened. Victoria and Alexander were there too. They stood in the hallway, looking through the nursery window at the tiny baby wrapped in blue. "He has Michael's nose," Eliza said, tears streaming down her face. "And Father's stubbornness, probably," Alexander said. "Lord help us all." Even Victoria smiled at that. "He's beautiful," she said quietly. "Eliza, he's really beautiful." Eliza looked at her. "Do you want to hold him when they bring him out?" Victoria hesitated. "I don't know if—" "Please, I want you to." Something passed between them. Years of hurt, years of silence, years of walls built brick by brick. "Okay," Victoria whispered. "I'd like that." When the nurse brought baby George out, Victoria held him like he was made of glass. Her hands trembled. Her eyes were wet. "Hello, little one," she said softly. "I'm your Aunt Victoria. I know we haven't been properly introduced, but I'm going to be better. I promise." Alexander put his hand on his sister's shoulder. Marcus watched them. This family so broken for so long finally starting to heal. George Whitmore had been right. Sometimes it takes an outsider to bring a family back together. The months passed. The foundation grew. More staff. More resources. More families helped. Marcus hired Rosa Martinez as the foundation's community outreach coordinator. She knew the neighborhoods, she knew the struggles, she knew how to reach people who'd given up hope. Alexander joined the board of directors. He brought his business expertise, his connections, his resources. But more importantly, he brought humility. He was learning to listen instead of command. Victoria stayed in the background. She wasn't ready for the spotlight, but she donated her time to the foundation's legal clinic, helping families navigate the maze of medical billing and insurance. "I used to take from people," she told Marcus one day. "Maybe it's time I gave something back." It's never too late to change. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what's the point? She didn't answer. But she kept showing up, day after day, week after week. That was enough. Jalen turned 8 in the spring. Marcus threw him a party in their new backyard. Bouncy castle, face painting, a chocolate cake shaped like a baseball. Tommy was there. Destiny was there. A dozen other kids from school ran around the yard laughing and screaming. Eliza came with baby George. Alexander brought expensive presents that Jalen didn't need but loved anyway. Even Victoria showed up awkwardly standing by the punch bowl until Jalen dragged her into a game of tag. Mrs. Patterson came too. She'd been Marcus's neighbor in the old apartment. The woman who watched Jalen. Who watched her game shows alone because her husband was gone. Marcus had paid off her bills, fixed up her apartment, made sure she'd never have to worry about rent again. "You didn't have to do all that," she said, watching the kids play. "You took care of my son when I couldn't. You were there when I had nothing. That's worth more than money. I was just being a neighbor. You were being family, and family takes care of each other." She squeezed his hand. "Your wife would be so proud of you, Marcus. I wish she could see all this." "I think she can." At the end of the party, when the sun was setting and the guests had gone home, Marcus sat with Jalen on the back porch. The boy was exhausted. Sugar crash. He leaned against his father's side, barely awake. "Best birthday ever," Jalen mumbled. "Yeah, way better than last year." Last year, Marcus had worked a double shift on Jalen's birthday. He'd come home at midnight with a cupcake from the gas station and a dollar store card. Jalen had pretended to be asleep, but Marcus saw the tears on his pillow. "I'm sorry about last year, buddy." "It's okay, Dad. I knew you were trying." "You shouldn't have to settle for trying. You deserve a dad who's actually there." Jalen looked up at him. His eyes were heavy but sincere. "You were always there, Dad, even when you weren't home. I knew you were working for us, for me. That counted." Marcus didn't trust his voice. He just pulled his son closer. "I love you, Jay." "Love you too, Dad." They sat there until the stars came out, until Jalen fell asleep against his shoulder, until the world was quiet and peaceful and full of possibilities. Marcus carried his son to bed. He tucked him in, kissed his forehead, stood in the doorway for a long moment. 8 years old, growing up so fast, becoming someone remarkable. Sarah would have loved to see this. Maybe she was seeing it, from wherever she was, watching over them, smiling. "I'm doing my best, baby," Marcus whispered into the darkness. "I hope it's enough." The next morning he visited George Whitmore's grave. He went alone, needed the quiet, needed the space to think. He knelt beside the headstone and placed a small bouquet of flowers at the base. "I didn't know you," Marcus said. "Not really, but I think I understand you now." The wind rustled through the trees. A bird sang somewhere in the distance. "You spent your whole life building, making money, chasing success. And at the end, you realized none of it mattered. Not without love, not without connection, not without someone to share it with." He touched the cold stone. "Your kids are changing, George. Slowly, but they're changing. Alexander's learning to listen. Victoria's learning to give. Eliza's raising your namesake to be the man you wished you'd been." His voice cracked. "And me, I'm trying to honor what you saw in me. I'm trying to be the man you believed I was." Some days I succeed. Some days I fail. But I never stop trying. He stood up, wiped his eyes. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for trusting me with your legacy. I won't let you down. I promise. He walked back to his car. The sun was warm. The sky was clear. Life was good. Not perfect. Never perfect. But good. And for a man who'd spent 3 years just surviving, good was more than enough. A year passed. The George Whitmore Foundation helped over 2,000 families. Rosa Martinez expanded the outreach program to 5 new neighborhoods. Alexander secured partnerships with 3 major hospitals, reducing costs for patients across the city. Marcus was featured in newspapers, magazines, talk shows. The man who inherited $500 million and gave most of it away. The cemetery worker who became a beacon of hope. He hated the attention, but he understood its purpose. Every interview is a chance to reach someone who's given up, Eliza told him. Every story is a lifeline for a family drowning in debt. So he kept doing interviews, kept telling his story, kept showing people that ordinary men could do extraordinary things. Jalen started 3rd grade. He was reading at a 5th grade level. His teacher said he had a gift. He's kind, she told Marcus at parent-teacher night. The other kids look up to him. He helps the ones who struggle. He never makes anyone feel stupid for not understanding something. That's his mother's influence. I think it's both of you. Marcus smiled. Thank you. That means more than you know. On the anniversary of George's death, the whole family gathered at the cemetery. Marcus, Jalen, Eliza, baby George, Alexander, Victoria, Thomas Reed, Rosa Martinez, Mrs. Patterson. They stood in a circle around the grave, heads bowed. Eliza spoke first. You weren't perfect, Father. None of us are. But you tried at the end. You tried to make things right, and that's what matters. Alexander went next. I spent my whole life angry at you. Angry that you weren't there. Angry that you loved your work more than your children. But I understand now. You were broken too. You didn't know how to love because no one ever taught you. Victoria's voice shook. I'm sorry I was so cold. I thought being hard made me strong. I thought wanting your approval made me weak. I was wrong about everything. She paused, wiped her eyes. I'm learning to be different. It's not easy. But I'm trying. For you. For Eliza. For myself. Baby George gurgled in Eliza's arms. Everyone laughed softly. Then Marcus stepped forward. I never knew you, George, but I carry you with me every day. In the foundation. In my family. In the man I'm becoming. He placed his hand on the headstone. You took a chance on a stranger. You believed in kindness when the world told you it was foolish. You left everything to a man who digs graves for a living because you saw something in him that no one else could see. His voice broke. I hope I'm living up to your faith in me. I hope wherever you are you can see what we've built. What we're still building. Jalen tugged on his father's sleeve. Can I say something, Dad? Of course, buddy. The boy stepped forward. He looked at the grave with serious eyes. Hi, Mr. Whitmore. I'm Jalen. I'm Marcus's son. I never met you, but my dad talks about you all the time. He paused. Thank you for helping us. Thank you for believing in my dad when nobody else did. He's the best dad in the world, and I think you knew that before anyone. He placed a small drawing on the grave, a picture of a house with a tree and 2 stick figures holding hands. This is our house now, the one you helped us get. I drew it for you. I hope you like it. He stepped back to his father's side. Marcus put his arm around him. The group stood in silence for a long moment. Then Eliza spoke. He's at peace now. I can feel it. Alexander nodded. For the first time in his life, probably. Victoria said nothing, but her hand found Eliza's and held it tight. They walked back to their cars together. A family broken and healing. Strangers who became something more. Marcus lingered at the grave. "Rest easy, George," he said softly. "We've got it from here." The wind picked up. The trees swayed. A single leaf drifted down and landed on the flowers Marcus had placed. He smiled. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe it was George saying goodbye. 5 years later, Marcus stood in the same cemetery where everything began. But this time he wasn't raking leaves. He wasn't invisible. He wasn't poor. He was delivering a eulogy. Mrs. Patterson had passed peacefully in her sleep 3 days ago, 92 years old. She'd lived her final years without worry, without fear, without the crushing weight of bills she couldn't pay. Marcus had made sure of that. "Dorothy Patterson was my neighbor," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "When my wife died and I was drowning, she was there. She watched my son. She fed him dinner when I worked late. She never asked for anything in return." He looked at the small gathering. Jalen, now 12, stood tall and solemn. Eliza held 5-year-old George's hand. Alexander and Victoria sat together closer than they'd ever been. "She taught me something important," Marcus continued. "That family isn't just blood. Family is the people who show up, the people who stay, the people who love you when you have nothing to offer but yourself." He placed a flower on her casket. "Rest easy, Dorothy. You earned it." After the service, Jalen walked beside his father. "Dad." "Yeah, buddy." Mrs. Patterson was really old. Was she scared to die? Marcus thought about it. The last time he'd visited her, she'd been sitting in her favorite chair, watching her game shows, a cup of tea in her hand. "I don't think so," he said. "I think she was ready. She'd lived a good life, helped a lot of people, made peace with her choices." Is that what happens when you're old? You make peace. If you're lucky, if you've lived right. Jalen was quiet for a moment. "I want to live right, Dad." "You already are, son. You already are." They drove home in comfortable silence. Home was different now. Not the tiny apartment with water stains and thin walls. Not even the modest house they'd moved into after the inheritance. 2 years ago, Marcus had bought a piece of land outside the city. Nothing fancy. Just enough space for a real garden, a treehouse, and a workshop where he could build things with his hands. He'd learned to build. Carpentry, furniture, small repairs. It reminded him of his grandfather, who'd worked with wood until his hands gave out. "A man should know how to make things," his grandfather used to say. Not just money. Things. Things that last. Marcus was making things that lasted. The foundation had grown beyond anything he'd imagined. 5,000 families helped in Chicago alone. Branches in Detroit, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Atlanta. A nationwide network of hope. He'd hired good people, trained them well, stepped back when they were ready to lead. "You're not the foundation," Thomas Reed had told him once. "The foundation is bigger than any one person. That's how legacies survive." Marcus understood now. George Whitmore had built an empire, but he'd made himself the center of it. When he died, his children fought over the pieces because they didn't know how to build anything themselves. Marcus was building differently. He was building people. Rosa Martinez now ran the Chicago branch. She'd earned her degree in social work paid for by the foundation's education fund. Her son Miguel had beaten leukemia and was now in high school, dreaming of becoming a doctor. "I want to help kids like me," Miguel told Marcus at the foundation's annual gala. "Kids who get sick and think it's the end. I want to show them it's just the beginning." Marcus had shaken his hand. "You're going to be a great doctor, Miguel." "Because of you, Mr. Johnson. Because you gave us a chance. I just opened the door. You walked through it." That was the truth Marcus lived by. He couldn't save everyone. He couldn't fix every problem. But he could open doors. He could shine lights in dark places. He could show people that someone somewhere believed in them. The rest was up to them. Eliza had become his closest friend. Not romantic. Never romantic. They'd both loved and lost, and neither was looking to replace what they'd had. But they understood each other in ways few others could. She'd rebuilt her life from the ashes of grief, finished her degree, started working at the foundation part-time, raised little George to be curious, kind, and unafraid. "He asks about Michael sometimes," she told Marcus one evening. They were sitting on his porch watching the kids play in the yard. "He wants to know what his father was like." "What do you tell him?" "The truth. That Michael was gentle, patient, that he loved teaching and believed every child could learn, that he died too young but lived more fully than most people do in twice the time." "That's a good answer." "It's the only answer I have." Little George ran over, breathless and laughing. "Uncle Marcus, Jalen says you can build a go-kart. Can you really?" Marcus smiled. "I can try." "Really? A real go-kart that we can drive?" "A small one, for the yard, no streets." "Mom, Uncle Marcus is going to build us a go-kart." Eliza laughed. "Oh, is he now?" "Apparently I am." "You spoil them. That's what uncles are for." Uncle. The word still surprised him sometimes. He'd gone from being invisible to being part of this strange, beautiful, broken and healing family. Victoria had surprised everyone the most. The Ice Queen, the cold one, the woman who'd slapped Marcus at a funeral and tried to destroy his reputation. She'd changed, not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly, steadily, like ice melting in spring. She'd taken over the Foundation's legal advocacy program, fighting insurance companies and hospitals that preyed on desperate families. She was ruthless in the courtroom, merciless with corporations that denied legitimate claims. "I used to take from people," she told Marcus during one of their rare private conversations. "I was good at it, efficient, cold. And now I take from people who deserve to lose, and I give it to people who deserve to win." George would be proud. Victoria's eyes glistened. "You think so?" "I know so." She'd never fully apologized for what she'd done to Marcus, not in words, but she showed up, every day, every week, every month. She did the work. She made amends through action. That was enough. Alexander had transformed too. He'd stepped down as CEO of Whitmore Properties 2 years after the inheritance battle ended. The company was doing fine without him. Better, actually. He'd been too controlling, too afraid of failure, too desperate to prove himself to a father who was already gone. Now he consulted for the foundation, used his business skills to negotiate better rates with hospitals, to structure partnerships, to stretch every dollar further. "I spent my whole life trying to be George Whitmore," he admitted to Marcus once, "trying to be bigger, richer, more powerful. I thought that's what made a man. And now I think being a man means something else entirely. It means showing up, being present, doing right by the people who depend on you. Your father learned that too, at the end. Too late. Maybe. But he tried, and that's more than most people do." Alexander had started visiting the cemetery more often. Not just on anniversaries, random Tuesdays, Sunday mornings, whenever he needed to think. "I talked to him," he confessed to Marcus. "Out loud, like he can hear me." "Maybe he can?" "You believe that?" "I believe the people we lose stay with us, one way or another." Alexander nodded slowly. "I tell him about the foundation, about Eliza and George, about how Victoria's changing. I tell him I'm sorry, for all the years I was angry, for all the things I never said." "Does it help?" "Yeah, I think it does." Jalen turned 13 on a warm spring day. The party was bigger this time. More friends, more family, more joy. Tommy was there, of course. They'd been best friends for years now. Destiny was there too, though Jalen insisted they were just friends, with a blush that said otherwise. Rosa Martinez came with Miguel. Eliza brought George. Alexander and Victoria arrived together carrying gifts too expensive and too generous. Mrs. Patterson wasn't there. Her absence was felt. But her spirit was everywhere. In the kindness Jalen showed to the younger kids. In the way he made sure everyone had cake before taking his own slice. In the gentle patience he'd learned from a woman who'd watched him grow. After the party, when the guests had gone and the house was quiet, Marcus found Jalen sitting on the porch steps. "Good birthday, buddy." "The best." "Better than last year." Jalen laughed. "Every year is better than the last, Dad. That's how it works now." Marcus sat beside him. The stars were coming out. The night was cool and clear. "Can I ask you something?" Jalen said. "Always. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you didn't catch Miss Eliza that day at the funeral?" Marcus had thought about it. Many times. "I think everything would have been different," he said. "I'd still be working 3 jobs. You'd still have holes in your shoes. We'd still be surviving instead of living." "But you did catch her." "I did." "Why, you didn't know who she was. You didn't know there was money involved." Marcus looked at his son. The boy was growing up, asking harder questions, searching for meaning. "I caught her because she was falling," Marcus said. "That's it, that's all. She needed help and I was there." "But everybody else just watched." "Yeah, they did." "Why?" Marcus thought about it. He'd asked himself the same question 1,000 times. "I think most people are scared," he said. "Scared of getting involved. Scared of making things worse. Scared of looking foolish. So they freeze. They watch. They hope someone else will do something." "But you didn't freeze." "No. I moved. I reacted. I didn't think about consequences or rewards or what anyone would think. I just saw a person in trouble and I tried to help." Jalen was quiet for a moment. "That's what you taught me," he said finally. "That's what Mom taught you. And now I'm teaching it to George." "What do you mean?" "Last week at school there was a new kid. Nobody would talk to him. He was sitting alone at lunch, so I went and sat with him. And his name is David. He's from Guatemala. His English isn't great yet. But we're friends now. I'm teaching him slang. He's teaching me Spanish." Marcus felt his heart swell. "I'm proud of you, Jay." "I'm proud of you too, Dad." They sat together under the stars, father and son, connected by something stronger than blood. Connected by choice. By love. By the decision made over and over again to show up for each other. "Dad." "Yeah." "Can we visit Mr. Whitmore's grave tomorrow? I want to tell him about my birthday." "Of course, buddy. We'll go first thing." The next morning they drove to the cemetery. Jalen carried a small gift, a handmade card with a drawing of their family. Marcus, Jalen, Eliza, George, Alexander, Victoria. All of them together standing in front of the foundation building. "I made it in art class," Jalen explained. "I thought he might like it, to see what his family looks like now." They walked to George's grave. The headstone was weathered, but well maintained. Fresh flowers sat at its base. Victoria's contribution, Marcus knew. She came every week. Jalen knelt and placed his card against the stone. "Hi, Mr. Whitmore. It's me, Jalen. I'm 13 now. Dad says that's a big deal." Marcus stood back, giving his son space. "I wanted to thank you again. For believing in my dad. For giving us a chance. My life is really good now. I have friends. I have a house. I have a family that's bigger than I ever imagined." He paused. "I don't remember what it was like to be poor. Not really. I was too young. But Dad tells me stories sometimes. About counting coins for bus fare. About peanut butter sandwiches every day. About working so hard he forgot to eat." His voice cracked. "I don't want anyone to live like that. So I'm going to keep doing what Dad does. Helping people. Opening doors. Showing up." He touched the stone. "I hope you can see us. I hope you're proud. Because we're proud of you too. For everything you did. For everything you believed." He stood up and stepped back to his father's side. Marcus put his arm around him. That was beautiful, Jay. You think he heard it? I think he did. They stood in silence for a long moment. The morning sun filtered through the trees. Birds sang. The world was alive and moving and full of possibility. Dad, yeah? When I grow up, I want to run the foundation. Marcus looked at his son. Really? Really? I want to help families like ours. I want to be like you. You don't have to be like me, Jay. You can be anything you want. I know, but I want this. I've been thinking about it for a long time. This is what I'm supposed to do. Marcus felt tears on his cheeks. He didn't wipe them away. Then that's what you'll do, he said. And I'll help you every step of the way. Jalen hugged him. Tight. Fierce. I love you, Dad. I love you too, buddy. More than anything in this world. They walked back to the car together. The cemetery was peaceful. Quiet. The same cemetery where Marcus had once been invisible. Where he'd raked leaves and dug graves and wondered if his life would ever get better. Now he walked through it as a different man. Not because of the money, not because of the fame, not because of the foundation, or the houses, or the opportunities. Because he'd learned something George Whitmore had tried to teach him. That wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives touched, in doors opened, in hands reached out to strangers who are falling. Marcus had been falling once. Sarah had caught him. George had believed in him. Eliza had confirmed him. And now he was catching others. That was the cycle. That was the legacy. That was what mattered. 10 years after the funeral, the George Whitmore Foundation celebrated its anniversary. The gala was held at a hotel downtown. The same hotel where Marcus had met with Victoria and Alexander all those years ago. The same conference room where he'd faced them down and refused to give up. Now the room was full of families. Hundreds of them. People who'd been helped by the foundation. People whose lives had been changed. Rosa Martinez gave a speech about her journey from struggling single mother to foundation director. Miguel, now a medical student, talked about the power of second chances. Victoria presented an award to a young lawyer who'd joined the advocacy program. Alexander announced a new partnership with a national hospital chain. Eliza spoke about George, both Georges, the father who'd believed in kindness, and the son she was raising to carry that belief forward. Then it was Marcus's turn. He walked to the podium. The room fell silent. He looked out at the crowd, at the faces, at the stories. 15 years ago, he began, I was a cemetery worker making $12 an hour. I had nothing. My wife was dead. My son's shoes had holes in them. I worked 3 jobs and still couldn't make rent. He paused. Then a man I'd never really met gave me everything he had, not because I deserved it, not because I asked for it, but because he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. He found Jalen in the crowd. His son was 18 now, tall, strong, a freshman in college studying nonprofit management. George Whitmore believed that kindness was strength, that helping strangers wasn't foolish, it was the whole point. He spent 5 years watching me, testing me, waiting to see if I was the man he hoped I was. His voice cracked. I hope I've proven him right. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough to know that his faith wasn't wasted. He looked at the Whitmore family. Victoria still fierce but softer now. Alexander finally at peace. Eliza radiant and strong. Little George 10 years old and already talking about becoming a teacher like his father. This foundation isn't mine, Marcus said. It never was. It belongs to all of you. To every family we've helped. To every door we've opened. To every life we've touched. He stepped back from the podium. George Whitmore built an empire of money. But we've built something better. We've built an empire of hope. And that empire will last forever. The room erupted in applause. Jalen ran to the stage. He hugged his father in front of everyone. I'm proud of you, Dad. I'm proud of you too, son, more than you'll ever know. They stood there, father and son, surrounded by the family they'd built. Not a family of blood, A family of choice. A family of love. The kind of family George Whitmore had always wanted but never known how to create. Until now. That night after the gala, Marcus drove to the cemetery one last time. He walked to George's grave alone. The moon was full. The night was quiet. He knelt beside the headstone. "I did it, George. Everything you asked. Everything you believed I could do." He placed his hand on the cold stone. "My son is going to run the foundation someday. Your grandchildren are growing up kind and brave. Victoria and Alexander finally learned what you tried to teach them." His voice broke. "And me, I'm happy, George. Really happy. For the first time since Sarah died." He stood up slowly. His knees weren't what they used to be. "I'm going to keep coming here, keep talking to you, keep making you proud." He smiled through his tears. "Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for seeing who I really was when no one else could. Thank you for giving me the chance to become the man I was supposed to be." He touched the headstone one last time. "Rest easy, old friend. We've got it from here." He walked back to his car. The cemetery was silent behind him. But Marcus could swear just for a moment he felt a hand on his shoulder. A presence. A warmth. George saying goodbye. Or maybe saying thank you. Marcus drove home to his family. The house was warm. The lights were on. Jalen was waiting on the porch. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah, buddy. I'm okay." "Where'd you go?" "To say goodbye to an old friend." Jalen nodded. He understood. They walked inside together. The door closed behind them. And somewhere in a cemetery on the east side of Chicago, George Whitmore's spirit finally rested. His legacy was complete. His family was whole. His faith had been rewarded. And the man who'd once dug graves for a living had become something more than George ever dreamed. A father, a leader, a legend. Marcus Johnson, the man who proved that kindness always wins.